And the first topical resolution is on Trident, to be proposed by Brendan O'Hara and seconded by Michelle van der Stighelen. And I'm sorry if I've not pronounced that correctly. To be followed by Sandra White MSP. Brendan O'Hara MP.
Thank you, Chair. Conference on June the 27th, amid claims that the MOD had run out of cash, the Secretary of State, Michael Fallon, told the House of Commons that he could not give a start date for the work on the already delayed and reduced Type 26 frigate programme on the Clyde, because he said at £500 million to £1 billion per ship, he had to guarantee best value for the taxpayer. Fast forward 3 months to just last week, and the same Michael Fallon was at Barrow-in-Furness, cutting happily French steel on the first of the 4 new successor submarines designed to carry the next generation of Trident missiles. These 4 submarines will have a through-life cost in excess of £200,000 million, with seeming no such value for the taxpayer concerned. Mr Fallon was more than happy to cut the steel. And the difference? Well, the difference is that the Type 26 frigates are part of our conventional defence and therefore deemed expendable. Trident is political and therefore sacrosanct. And they're paid out of the same pot of money. And the Trident missile and replacement submarine programme is ring-fenced, and it means that every time the costs go up, money is taken out of the conventional budget to pay for it. And there is nothing that the MOD, it seems, won't sacrifice, cancel or delay in order to secure the next generation of submarines. And the Brexit budget hasn't bitten yet, and our conventional defences are being forced to pay. And I'm sure Conference will join me in demanding that the MOD give us a start date for the Type 26 programme on the Clyde and fulfil their promise to the workers at BAE Systems. Conference, the United Kingdom does not need nuclear weapons, but it is determined to have them because, for reasons unfathomable, they have become some kind of national virility symbol. But that's not new. It's always been thus, all the way back to when Ernest Bevin visited Washington in 1946 and returned enthralled to the nuclear programme, saying, "We've got to have it, whatever the cost, and we've got to have the Union Jack on top of it." All the way through to Tony Blair, who in his memoirs said of Trident, the utility is useless, the cost is astronomical, but getting rid of it would be too great a downgrading of our status as a nation. Proof positive, if ever we needed it, that Trident is a political weapon. It is not a military weapon. Trident sees the world as we thought it would be, not the world as it actually is. Because the threats we face now are far more complex and far more nuanced than ever before. Terrorism, cyber attack, climate change and the mass movement of people are real and potent threats right now. And they are not answered by having a Trident missile on board a submarine somewhere in the deep ocean 365 days a year. And the choices we make now will determine what we can do in the future. And don't just listen to me as an avowed unilateralist. The former NATO commander, General Sir Richard Sharif, said just last year, the UK can either go down a line of nuclear capability at the expense of conventional or conventional at the expense of nuclear. You cannot have both. But having chosen to go down the nuclear road, what exactly is it we're buying? We're buying 4 submarines who won't come into service until the early 2030s, submarines whose unique capability is to remain undetected. But by 2030, does anyone honestly believe that that will still be the case? Last year, scientists in California found the gravitational waves found by the collision of 2 black holes 1.3 billion years ago. Do we honestly think that submarines, 17,000 tonnes of slow-moving submarines, will still remain undetectable?
Afternoon Conference. My name is Michelle van der Stighelen and I'm with Helensburgh branch. I have lived and worked in the green leafy town of Helensburgh for 16 years. Every day, myself and my neighbours live with Trident nuclear missiles on our doorstep. Barely 6 miles from my front door, we have enough of a nuclear arsenal to destroy the world many times over. But Helensburgh is facing just the same challenges as every other part of Scotland. We have just as much unemployment, our services are being cut left, right and centre, our local schools have lost their school librarians, and we even have our very own food banks. Yet, only a few minutes' drive along the road from weapons that cost many billions of pounds, we have young families with young children living in very real poverty, relying on voluntary handouts from these food banks to prevent them from going hungry. Helensburgh branch have always and will always continue to campaign against nuclear weapons, but neither Helensburgh branch nor the SNP have ever advocated the removal of Stighelen Naval Base. Stighelen is an amazing military facility. It's strategically important, it's at the edge of the North Atlantic, and it can, as it has been in the past, be a thriving conventional military base for both an independent Scotland and for our friends and allies in Europe, in NATO and right across the international community. Helensburgh branch is at the forefront of the UK's nuclear deterrent, and we live with it daily, but I'll reiterate, there is no moral, no economic and no military justification for these weapons. At the rate we're going, we'll be left with little or no conventional defences at all. The UK cannot afford nuclear weapons. Scotland doesn't want them, and yet we're having them foisted upon us by a government we did not elect. Conference. I'm simply asking you to support this resolution. Thank you.
Sandra White MSP.
Thank you very much, Derek, and can I congratulate the previous speaker. Absolutely excellent speech, touched all the right buttons, and thank you so much for coming up here as a first-time speaker. Fantastic. Delegates, good afternoon and welcome to Glasgow, a city with a population of just over 600,000 people, a city which is just 25 miles away from Stighelen. We've got to remember that, 25 miles away from the Trident nuclear base, where weapons of mass destruction, estimated, it says in the resolution, and also estimated by CND as we go on, to basically cost £205 billion. An obscene amount of money when people, as the previous speaker has said, are using food banks while we have homeless people sleeping on the streets. What we could do with that money, we must stop this programme, and we must also get rid of Trident nuclear weapons. I want to lay to rest some of the untruths, I'll call it, that the unionist parties mention constantly all the time. They claim that thousands of people are employed in Trident. The official figures from MOD is 520 people are actually employed. Let's remember that, and let's tell the unionists the next time they tell us thousands of jobs are there. They are absolutely not. 520. Something else we really need to get out here is the fact that it's not Britain or the UK's nuclear weapons, it's America's nuclear weapons. And nobody mentions that, nobody at all mentioned that fact. Nuclear weapons, warheads, are taken down to a port in Georgia in the USA and they're repaired there. We also have nuclear warheads taken to other parts of America and actually not just dismantled, but it basically built in America. It's nothing to do with the UK, and as Brendan said, it's nothing but a symbol that we should be a Great Britain. That's a laugh with Brexit, isn't it? But there's something else I think that's really important we have to remember, something that absolutely terrifies me. You're looking at America just now. You might have Donald Trump as the President of America. We had bad enough with Boris Johnson as the Foreign Minister. Imagine those two buffoons in charge of a Trident nuclear weapon. It's dangerous. Thank you.
Conference, can I ask, is the resolution therefore passed by acclaim? It is. Thank you very much.